Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So, welcome to early fall. I think it's early fall. Yep, it is the first day of fall. I'm still trying to get used to everything. Pulling along the truck, I guess I'll move that along. Or move that out of the way. It's getting stuck on the harvester, or the seeder. You know what, I'm going to just put it over here so it's like fully out of the way for now. And that way I don't have any possibility of having difficulty when I come back into the yard. So I think I'm going to have to definitely probably want to move some things around because it's a lot tighter than I would have liked. So let's see. I think I'm wide enough, but again, it's just a matter of letting the whole train swing wide enough is the bigger problem. But yep, the trees are apart enough. So I guess at least I can get this stuff in and out. Alright, so this could go well, or it could be the shortest experience I've had before I had to change plans, because at this point I am going to unfold, and it should plant because I don't need to plow after the canola, and so this should work this way. But obviously this is a big planter, so it's going to take a little while to unfold, as you can see. Wow, that thing is big. Alright, so I'm going to throw up my help menu just in case. So we're going to lower the seeder so the wheels went down. We want wheat. Just getting my GPS set. Alright, here we go. It's making noise. Alright, well, it appears to be working. The weeds are going away. We're leaving some stuff on the ground. And here's the challenge. Because, yeah, we're already heading off the field. So we don't want to be doing that if we can avoid it. My goodness. Alright. Let's see. Maybe we'll do okay and get everything. Just trying to figure out the best place to be here. Definitely going to do a second pass. That's not going to help with that little piece there. I think that's just a weed. It is so hard to figure out what makes sense here. So let me do this here. I'm not entirely sure if this is going to stay where I need. I may miss a little bit here. Now my question is, why is my fertilizer not deploying? Let's see, if I go here, so there's no other controls. Because, yeah, we're not using any fertilizer at all, so it looks like we're seeding, but without fert, which is obviously not what we want to be doing if possible. So, let's see. So yes, this says oat. It says it's growing, so that's all good. But yeah, it's light fertilization. I wonder why. Because yeah, there's nothing... Well, that's disappointing. Because obviously the icons are different. I don't understand. So it doesn't look like I can do anything differently to change the result. Wow, this is really struggling to turn this thing around. So, let's see. Because, yeah, it's not doing anything until it goes this way. But it is definitely just... Because all I have is unload, open cover. That's not going to help. I mean, I clearly have white stuff in the back, which would be fertilizer. And selecting the next tool doesn't help me. So yeah, it's almost like I have something configured wrong. Or something. I just don't really understand. Because there's no other control, at least that I can see on... Because obviously now I'm on the unit that holds the seeds. So here's the part I knew I'd have a little problem with. And then... And I'm just wondering if it's because I fertilized and then changed the... You know, but it just did that, but it didn't really change the state. Okay, I'm assuming when I go through here, just like with a tractor, I'm assuming this thing is going to destroy the crops, but maybe not. No, it's actually not. It's just more where the wheels are, which is what you'd expect, but... Alright, so I'll just touch this one up a bit. I'll get that part done. So the only thing I can think of is that this, it's because I fertilized it when I, you know, kind of before that, and then nothing was growing in between. So in essence, there's no state change. I just thought because the day would change, because that is how it worked in older versions, that I would then be able to, that would work. But clearly it did not. So, let's see. Hopefully this lines up. It looks like it, but I guess we'll know when we come back again. So, learning new things again. I mean, obviously I'm also going to be curious. I hope it will take the seeds from the next container when it runs out. I'm just also worried somehow something is wrong there. But that would make very little sense if those compartments were not connected and not functional in any way. But I can't imagine this is just, I'll do one thing at a time and drive me over the field when the appropriate thing is the new one that isn't empty. But yeah, at this point, I mean, I'm thinking, I don't know that I'll be done. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to just keep going this way. Because the challenge I'm certainly going to have is this is a large apparatus. I don't know what else to call it. So we're definitely going to have some difficulties as we continue to try to move around, because it just isn't something that turns on a dime. So, you know, it does seem to line up relatively quickly here. You know, it's not dumping anything early, which is what I would expect. The seeds usually don't go unless there's something to plant. It won't overplant. So what we may want to do next time we use this to kind of test the theory then will be plant with fert first, and then spray after, because at this point, I mean, it looks like we're going to have to spray, and so the good news is at least it's just a time thing, because otherwise I would certainly be emptying the fertilizer out and then having to do all that work of reorganizing everything if it was using that 10,600 of fertilizer but then not getting a second stage. So, you know, I'm going to have to take the time to go over it with a sprayer or a spreader, depending on, once again, what will work. So, I guess then what that is starting to look like is I will plant this, and then I will go ahead and immediately turn around and go ahead and try to get the second state of fertilizer on, because that should work. Because at this point we do have a state change. It's gone to a planted field. And unless they've truly changed how everything interacts, that should operate, and I should be able to do that. Now I'm definitely going to switch to heading north-south before I get to Swede's field, because obviously I can't be doing what I'm doing on this empty field, where I'm using it as a turnaround point. The question is, am I going to have enough capability on this side that I'm heading toward to not run into the river and be able to turn appropriately, or am I already going to have some challenges? And obviously, once again, because of how it's functioning, I could just kind of take what it'll do and then touch things up later near the river. So definitely a much faster process, I believe, than what we would have with the Amazon that we did this portion of the field with canola on before. I guess the test would really be, I'll see how long this takes ultimately, in, you know, what the, if nothing else, what the length of the episode looks like when I'm done, and then I can compare that to what everything looks like, you know, on the other end with the canola episode when I planted that. Obviously, the other challenge is with the canola episode, I was completely learning the field. Alright, so we have at least this pass and probably another before. So I think I can just turn this on. It's not going to do anything until it hits the field there. So there you go. I think we're okay for the... We should be alright then, I think, to get this all complete this way. So that seems to be kind of the new method that I've done. I did that with the sprayer as well, if you recall, as opposed to the first time I think I just made the headland passes. And then kind of did everything. Well, actually, I guess with the sprayer, I continued to go this way until I got to the thin part. I'm not going to be doing that for what I explained, because this requires a much bigger turnaround than that sprayer did. I could stay in the grass in between our fields with the sprayer, but I'm not going to be able to do that with the planter. Not easily. I mean, I could probably start to do a turnaround. I would just likely then have to play with some stuff. So either way, I would, at a minimum, run a row up the side, and that might work. But at this point, I'm going to just keep heading this way, and we'll see what it looks like as we get closer. So we're not quite to halfway out of the seeds. Trying to figure out, is that going to happen at, I guess, 2800, because I think it's 5600 for the container there, just like this other one. And then we'll start to see what happens. So that's really kind of my next curiosity point, is what that's all going to come down to and how this is going to behave. Because certainly if I have this loaded up and it doesn't then just start using it, that kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, obviously this is a larger seeder, but the goal certainly was to be more efficient in general. And if I'm suddenly having to refill it at 5600, that wouldn't seem to really hit that mark very well. Because then it also begs the question of, then what are the other reservoirs for if they're never utilized? So I'm just going to assume that it's a state change, and that if we hadn't pre-fertilized this field the first time, that the fertilizer would also be consumed, and that this would work. So what I'm hoping I'm going to see is that when I use up this reservoir of seed, it will simply switch to the next one, and perhaps even that seed icon will then change to wheat, because at this point, yes, they're just seeds because they're not being utilized. But even if it just stays a seed icon, obviously, as long as it keeps planting wheat, I think it's okay, but I'm just not sure how it's going to work. So I hope you're as excited as me to see it, because it's another learning experience for me, and always part of the fun of learning how to operate on the farm. So yeah, it looks like I'm going to need basically a shorter pass heading back. So yeah, because even with the seeder off, although it could be because I have it lowered, it's not going much faster. I don't know. I may have a full pass between that and the island. It'll be close. I may actually miss pieces up at one point. I do have to touch up a little bit down there. I hope I remember that. On the potatoes, I ended up realizing when I was plowing that field, getting ready for the corn, I actually had missed a tiny piece of potatoes during harvest. So that's always the challenge of kind of jumping around on the field and thinking, oh, I'll just deal with that next time. Just because you're kind of in this mode of, I've got my sequence going. Next time doesn't really happen because it's so much later in your process. It's an hour later, or, in that case, I'm sure it was 4 or 5 hours later, given how the potato harvest was going. I just didn't remember that I had a little bit of potato down there, and it was more, hey, I'm done. Let's fold this up. And obviously the helper I had with me, we didn't remember that either. because we were working that area of the field together as well. And they did call me over for the one piece but again, they had stumbled upon it and seen it, I think. Because I think that part I had done. Those were my initial headland runs before they had gotten on to help me, so. Alright, well, this is definitely one way or the other, the last pass. It's just a question. Yeah, it looks like I'll get everything, and I might actually have to play with moving around a bit, which is not going to be great, but because certainly in the center there, yeah, I think I can stay here the way I am, but then in the center I'm going to have to move out a bit and go around that tree. So this will obviously slow seed consumption a little bit, but let me make sure, because again, it takes a little while to get this thing to actually respond, because it's so long. So I just obviously also want to make sure that I'm not going too far. Oh, it looks like... nah, I definitely have to move for the next one, so rather than try it, because I'm like, it might get by, and it might, but it's just really not worth taking a chance and then having it get hooked and then trying to figure out how to free myself. I already had enough fun with that at the supply silo, so I'd prefer not to be doing that again on my own field. Alright, so we've got this part, technically south of the island, as I call it, is seeded. So the wheat is on its way for next year. You know, we've got plenty of time, obviously, to fertilize. The other test we're going to have, if we want to call it that, is once again, I'm seeding, but I'm doing so without having killed weeds ahead of time. And I don't think you can kill weeds ahead of time. If they come back, it's not something I would have done anyway. So I'm going to go ahead, I think, and run this. Go up around the north end of the island, like normal. And then I probably need to come back on the north end of the island too, because I think this is definitely too thin in one pass to have enough room to turn around. It's honestly, even, I'm wondering if 2 is going to be wide enough, but I'm certainly going to give it a go. Alright, I'm going to try to get this thing to the island. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to before I hit those trees. I think I'm good. And then I'll just back this up, see how long it stays straight. It's starting to float, but that's alright. Alright, so now we need to break loose a bit and head up this way, and once again not go too far, but also keep in mind that I have to go far enough because that little tree over there is very close to the edge. So at least I've kind of got a visual line here that I can follow. But I think this is the worst tree I have. I think everything else is further away, but it's not far enough away that I can do anything different than what I'm doing now. The challenge I'm also going to have is I'm going to have to come back on that GPS line we can see now and basically do a partial row here to get things to be covered appropriately. Ooh, really close there, really close. Alright, and I may just need to fix that when I come back, and I'm heading north-south, so I'll just let this do its thing, swing back in here and get what I can when I can, and then trust that the planter will obviously know where it didn't have some seeds. Alright, so just about down to 1,000 liters. I don't think we're gonna... Well, this is a partial row for the most part, other than this beginning part. So yeah, I don't think we really have a hope of having a full 1,000 liters used up going through this way, because yeah, you see it's going to be a very thin strip. So right now it's, you know, pretty quick. You'll start seeing that slow down to probably several seconds to use a liter eventually. Well, maybe not several seconds, but it looks like at least it's a second to use a liter, which is slower than it was going before. Now the fertilizer is going. I don't know if you noticed that. So let's see. Is it saying it wasn't fertilized here? I don't understand. Because yeah, it's not giving me the second layer of fert. Or wait, is this... No, it's giving me needs rolling. Hold on. Yeah, see, now the fertilizer is going. But this is not... Oh, no, maybe it is the second level. No, that's the second level. This is so confusing now. Because now if I'm suddenly using it, now I'm in that position of... Is that really what I want? Because it's then not doing... It's wasting fertilizer. And I'm not getting any result for it. So let's see if it does continue. Oh boy. So now this becomes a real question of what do I do here? Because yeah, the big thing is if I turn off the weeds, I really don't want to be doing this because and I'm wondering if it like triggered it because I was going over a section that didn't have any. Oh boy, because the problem's going to be now when I unload this, I'm going to have boxes everywhere, and some are going to be fertilizer, some are going to be seed. So I'm going to go do this in the area of the field that I've planted, because otherwise I'm basically going to just suddenly be dragging things over. But yeah, I want to pick up seed only, and then not plant with fertilizer. So just to explain my thought pattern here, like you can see, the field state is already fertilized, and you know, we weren't getting anything, but it wasn't consuming any. Now somehow we've triggered something that does that. Alright, so the seeds are the pioneer ones there, so I want to basically head over to that side and get those done and leave the fertilizer. So let's see if I can pick this off appropriately. It's going to be interesting, if nothing else. So let's see. Okay, so it's going to refill the additional tank. Whoops, do I have to hit R? Yeah, R. I was hitting I. So, you know, the thing is, I don't want it to grab the, so I think it's going to grab the one to the right now. Alright, it's not picking anything else up. Alright, so we'll get these two, hopefully. It might only get one of them. No, I think we're okay. And then we'll cycle around, and we will get this one, and then, you know, the bigger challenge will be to not get anything beyond that. So now at this point, this should fill this tank and then a little bit more of the next one. Alright. Because at this point we'd be full. There we go. So that behaves as I would have expected. But the challenge becomes, how do I make sure that it only gets the seed? Because otherwise I get to do this again, but I would just move again if... Alright. Let's see. What is it doing and why? Alright, let me... I'm going to try to basically push this one particular pallet away so that I'm much cleaner in my filling, because like right now it would be taking fertilizer. I don't want that. And now I'm out of range, so now if I go here, and that may be where it was slightly confused, I don't know, let's see. Alright, because yes, now it's taking it. And that is where I was at, because I was down to 606. The difference is, obviously, I don't have the ability to tell if, whatchamacallit, to tell what will happen. I mean, I'm going to have to wait much longer now to get to that point. But at this point, yeah, I don't want to be burning more fertilizer for no effect whatsoever, which is what was happening there. So we'll get ourselves unfolded, and then we'll continue. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get this done. Obviously, you know what's happening. So I'm going to get to the point where I'm ready to, you know, getting close to running out of this main tank of seed. And then I will join you back up. So I'll see you in a bit. We're actually barely going to be able to tell if the seeds work, because this is all that's left of the field, is this little run here. Definitely got some interesting things to share with you, and I do have to go get that little piece done on the south. I did remember. So here we go, down to single digits. And okay, so it switched and it did change to wheat. Alright, so that is what I expected would happen. And then obviously at some point we had the fertilizer being consumed, although we don't quite know why. So I think we're going to have enough to get done with what I've seen. Because it's basically been about 300 when I went down, but these are getting to be shorter and shorter rows because of the way the field is angled. So, you know, and we also have a partial for the next row as well. So I'm pretty confident we'll be okay here. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding when we see where we end up, but, you know, I think we're going to use a couple hundred here at least, and obviously then we'll circle around, but, you know, we obviously had less than 500 when we started the row, and, you know, we're almost done, and we're probably not even going to get below 300, so we are definitely good, because as I said, the next row is partial, and now it's a smaller and smaller chunk. So we'll get ourselves lined up here. But I did kind of keep going along here without stopping, so you can get a perspective of how much time it was really taking. Alright, there we go. Yeah, I don't even think we're going to get below 200. So, and then we'll be complete, other than, as I said, the one little touch-up on the south, so I'll go do that very quickly. But if you look over to the left, you can see this field is now lighter than the other. If I look at the fertilization coverage map in the map, it still all looks the same. So I'm definitely going to be curious how this all plays out. And you can see that little section of white in there, or light color, I should say. It's not really white. That was the area I had to go in and touch up and replant when we had gone across and then come off the island. And you can see where I touched there, and then that rounded piece, I had turned around without stopping the fertilizer, or without stopping the planter, and even though no seeds were going in, suddenly it appeared like, oh, I don't have fertilization. So before I potentially created a larger problem, I then started to shut off every time I came around in that direction. But it is just strange how that all has played out. Alright, so basically we're going to have this little bit from here on out. So I'm just going to go from here kind of to the edge of where the field pulls off, and then basically stop there. Because we obviously have some lime. I don't know that we actually fertilized, but I think at this point we did. So that'll get us pretty much everything we've got. I think, again, the canola was planted there, so... Alright, I do need to then pick up this fertilizer, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And obviously we've got seed still here. But, yeah, it's been interesting. So let me just give you a peek. So you can see if I go to the fertilization map, once it refreshes here, like, the field shows the same state the whole time. But then, obviously, physically, what we see tells a different story. So that line there is where we basically stopped, came over to dump our fertilizer out, and then started to plant without fertilizer in the planter. So it was transmitting some sort of different information to the, the field mask or whatever it is that kind of updates things. It's not letting me do this at all, is it? Oh, here we go. Now it finally is. And yes, it's going where I'd expect. So we'll see how much this is. But anyway, that's what I've got. That really will end this episode. I'll pick up with the next one, and we'll continue getting our things ready over the next few episodes. So I'll see you next time.